And I wanted to introduce you guys. My name is Olivia Liu. I'm the Director of International Students at Pasadena City College, and I'm so joined by Miss Sandra Parra. Sandra, do you want to introduce
Hello.
yourself?
I'm Sandra Parra. I'm the Senior Clerk at the International Student Center. And so nice to see you guys.
Okay, great. So this is currently being recorded and this is also live on YouTube. So if you wanted to shut down your cameras, you're welcome to do so. But today we're going to cover filing taxes for international students. This is a primer or just a resource for international students if you're interested in filing taxes or if you need to file taxes here in the United States, and kind of gives you the steps and explains to you what you need to do in order to prepare for filing taxes as an international F1 student. Now, one of the first things that we want to cover is what you will be learning from this presentation is really understanding what do you need in order to prepare for your taxes as an F1 international student. And you'll learn about resources to help support your filing of taxes and understand why filing taxes is important in helping you maintain your visa status. One of the disclaimers that I have to let you guys know is that here at PCC and the International Student Center, we are not tax accountants, we are not tax professionals. We're just providing this presentation to really help you get a resource or obtain resources to help you assist you when you're ready to file taxes. If you really need assistance in helping you complete the tax forms or doing things that are important during your tax preparation process, there's some resources at the very end of the presentation that will help you prepare for the tax filing period and the process. Now, why do you need to file taxes? And this is very important, right? It is actually required by US law. All of us have to file taxes, including myself, right? Residents as well as non-residents. That includes you as an F1 international student. And it actually helps you comply with US visa regulations. This is very important. You may have to pay certain taxes that you owe, but most of the time for many of our students, they might be receiving some sort of refund for any taxes that are withheld if you actually worked on campus or on OPT or some other type of external form of employment. Now, this is one of the most important questions that we often get is who must file taxes? And there's a lot of confusion among our students of who actually needs to file taxes, and rightfully so, right? You're not a US citizen, you're not a resident, why do I need to file taxes? But every international student actually who's here in the United States has an obligation to complete at least one tax form once every year, even if you did not receive an income. And this is kind of important. This is only for reporting purposes in the future. Even if you don't earn anything, you're not going to be taxed for it. But for you to file something officially, an official tax form, in the future, it will facilitate things if you need to apply for OPT, because OPT is related to employment income that you will earn. So it is kind of important. So we will talk about what that tax form is about. Also, if you earn any type of income here in the United States, that includes any work that you do on campus. For many of you, probably work on campus, any scholarships that you received, any fellowship money that you receive here in the United States, or money earned from a US mutual funds if you play in the stock market or invest in the stock market, or any interest that you earn from any savings in your US bank accounts, you do need to file those taxes because that is considered income. Now, to continue on, one of the other things too is what are the different types of taxes that I need to file? And around the world, it is a little bit different, but here in the United States, there are two types of taxes that most of us will need to file. Because we live in California, we also have to, aside from filing the US general government taxes, which is the federal tax, we also need to file for California, which is the state tax. So there are two different types of forms that you will need to, two different sets of forms that you will need to actually prepare. Now, the federal government taxes usually filed through the Internal Revenue Service, which is the IRS, which is the really, really big overarching state entity, and federal or US government entity. And then the second one is the California taxes are filed through the California Franchise Tax Board, which is FTB, and you can see the links listed there. If you earn any income, let's say if you attended school and you worked as a student in the state of New York before you came to PCC, you will need to file taxes with the other state as well. So usually taxes are filed for the entire calendar year, for the previous year of the year that you're filing for taxes. So for example, we are in year 2020. So you are going to be taxed for income that you earn between January 1st to December 31st of 2019. Now, this is great news. Typically in the United States, the deadline to file taxes is April 15, but because of what's happening with COVID-19, the IRS has extended taxes to July 15 of 2020. So you can actually go ahead and file your taxes by then. Obviously, I'm pretty sure you're not going to wait until the last minute to file your taxes, but it buys you a little bit more time to prepare for your taxes. Now, this is the part where it gets a little bit more complicated, right? So it's important for you to know what are the differences. There are categories for tax filing purposes. So for example, what is considered you as an international student, what type of taxes are you going to be filing? For the most part and for the majority of our F1 international students, you probably will be a non-resident alien. So the IRS considers a non-resident alien as someone that's probably an F1 visa student that has been living in the US for less than 5 calendar years. So it counts by calendar year. Now, if you have been living here for more than 5 years, then most likely you will be considered a resident alien. These words sound very, very foreign and strange, but in tax purposes, a resident alien is considered a resident only for tax purposes. It doesn't mean that you are a citizen. It doesn't mean that you're a resident of the state, but you'll only be considered a resident for tax purposes. For, again, majority of our international students, you probably will be a non-resident alien when you're filing for taxes. Now, if you have a more complicated case, because you've been here for more than 5 years, we highly recommend that maybe you seek out other resources at the very end that we will show you to determine what your residency status is. Also, you can also check for your own residency status for tax purposes. The easiest thing that you can do is go to the irs.gov website, which is the official Internal Revenue Service website, and click or search for publications 515 and 519, because it explains to you what are the categories for you to follow if you're a non-resident or a resident alien. And also, if you have questions, you can always call the IRS. They're very friendly. They have very good customer support, and the number is listed there. Now, the other question that we often get is, what forms do I need to file? What do you need to prepare in order to file for your taxes? Now, typically for students at PCC under the F1 visa, you will probably be a non-resident alien, like I said. For the federal government, for the US government, you will be filing Form 1040 NR, which stands for non-resident, and Form 8843. And I will explain what those two forms are in a little bit. The second one, then you have to file for the California tax return, which is a state tax return. You will file Form 540 NR. For resident aliens, it's pretty straightforward. Again, if you are a resident for tax purposes, then you will be filing 2 different types of forms. Now, what is the 1040 non-resident and the Form 8843? And I kind of want to touch a little bit upon that because it's kind of important. For non-resident aliens, you have to report if you do make some income, you do have to file the 1040 non-resident NR. The 8843 is usually recommended for anyone that is non-resident alien to basically report the number of days they've been here in the US. It's really for informational purposes, and we recommend that you file those 2 together. Now, the other forms that you need to prepare, most likely you should have received this in the mail if you worked at PCC or worked in another place where you were given some income, or you had a salary or had some wages, is the W-2 form. And most of the time here at PCC, it's actually mailed to you to your local home address. The other documents that you will probably have to prepare is to have your social security number with you ready, or the individual tax identification number. Most of our international students will most likely have a social security number instead of the other number. Also have your passport ready, your most recent I-20 from PCC, your F1 visa, and your most recent I-94 record. And you can download the I-94 on the Homeland Security webpage. And I-94 is really your entry and exit card. So whenever you come into the country, it just records basically your entry and your exit. Now, how do you know which forms you need to file? This is the tricky part. And for the most part, most of our international students, like I said, you probably are a non-resident alien. Did you earn any income in the last calendar year? Sorry, it should be 2019, not 2018. So between January 1st to December 31st of 2019, did you get any income? And if you say yes, for most of our F1 international students who are non-resident aliens, you will be filing 1040 NR and the 8843. Plus, because you have to file for state taxes here in California, the 540 NR. Now, if you did not make any money, this is kind of important. A lot of international students actually don't know. You do have to still file a tax form. Remember at the very beginning, we talked about what students need to, what is the responsibility of an international student, whether to file taxes or not. You still have to submit a tax form. The Form 8843, like I said, is for informational purposes. It really is not reporting any income or any taxes. And this is only for students. And this is the only form you will need to file once a year during the tax filing period. You only need to file this form if you made no income, right? No scholarships, no wages, nothing. And we recommend that you do file that form. Now, some countries have tax exemptions based on agreements. So the US has a list of treaties or agreements with other countries where residents of those countries, not necessarily citizens, are taxed at a reduced rate, or maybe they're exempt completely from paying US taxes. Again, because we're not tax experts here, one of the things that we highly recommend is that you educate yourself and read about these tax treaties. You can visit the IRS tax treaty website, or you can also look at the tax treaty tables that they have published to see whether your country has some sort of tax treaty where you don't need to pay US taxes, or you pay US taxes at a reduced rate. The idea is that you are not double taxed, right? That at least you're being taxed at, receive a credit here in the United States where it's going to lower your tax rate, or at least you don't have to pay taxes in both countries. So check on your tax exemptions a little bit more carefully, just to see. Now, again, the typical questions that we get in our office is, how do you file for taxes? And even we as residents, sometimes it's hard. How do we file for taxes? And preparing for all of it, it's kind of tough. The easiest thing that I would probably recommend, and I put it up in the top, is to use the SprintTax software. SprintTax is a web-based self-preparation software, and it was especially created for international students. A lot of their staff members are actually former international students, so they kind of understand. And again, it's created specifically for non-residents. And again, really, really great at determining what kind of residency you would have, because it asks a series of questions, and this is all web-based. Easiest thing that you can do is to create an account by going to sprinttax.com. They have really good customer service, so if you have any problems, they can assist you with how to move forward with that. The great thing about SprintTax too is that it files for both the federal and the state. So when you're filing through their web-based software, it's basically on the web, they will prepare both the state of California and also the federal tax at the same time. And of course, there's a cost to it. It's actually a minimal cost of $69. Now, remember this, the $69 is only for using the tax software in helping you prepare for the taxes. If you owe any taxes to the US government or to the state of California, then it's an addition of whatever you owe. And it will show you at the very end whether you received a return. Are you going to get some money back from the US government from overpaying taxes, or from the state of California from overpaying taxes? Or do you owe the state of California or the US government any type of money? And it would usually say, where do you need to send that the money that you owe. The other easiest way of doing it, and sometimes it's perfect for students who are willing to read through everything and are not afraid of understanding the process, is filing for your own taxes. For most of our students, F1 international students, taxes are probably not very complicated because you don't make a really large sums of money. And it's only probably one single source of income, meaning that you only get money from work at school. So you can figure it out on your own by visiting the irs.gov website and also the ftb.ca.gov website, which is the California side of it, and download the forms yourself. Each one of the forms are usually PDF fillable. You can print them out. There are instructions of how you need to fill it out. They're very easy to go through. And once you fill it out, I believe you have to mail them in into the specific addresses listed in the forms. And usually the cost is zero because you're just downloading the forms on your own and you're not paying anyone to help you prepare your taxes. It really is perfect for students that are willing to do a little bit more research and are willing to go into it and understand how the tax system works. It's not perfect for someone like me because I just want to do everything very quickly. And I don't like numbers. So that's something that you might want to consider. There are also at this time of the year, probably not during COVID-19, there's a lot of tax preparation companies. Well, right now they're closed because of the quarantine, but later on they will open up, like H&R Block or Liberty Tax. You'll find a lot of these places around campus. So I highly recommend, if you don't want to use Sprint Tax, you want to talk to someone, this is another really good option. I recommend not using their software. They also have something, the web-based software, so you can just go online and do everything on your computer. But I really don't recommend those because those are set up for easy taxes for residents, right? So they're not set up for non-resident taxes. There's no way for them to figure it out. So the easiest way usually is to visit. If you want to talk to someone, is go to these companies. There's many of them in Pasadena where you can just go in, set up an appointment, and they can help walk you through the process. The cost will vary. Sometimes it can vary from between $40 to $100, depending on how complicated your taxes can be. So it really depends. There's also another one that's I think it's very useful. It's the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance. It's the VITA program. It's a volunteer-based income training tax preparation assistance program that was created through the IRS. So what they do is that they provide they're volunteers that have been trained, and they provide very simple tax assistance, and it usually was created for people that don't make a lot of money. And again, it's free. The only challenge is you need to find a VITA center or a VITA club. Here at PCC, there actually is a VITA club available, and I think they had scheduled some sessions for our students in order to help them with taxes. But right now, because the campus is closed, I think they've canceled some of these. So right now, during COVID-19 closures, it's possible that many of these places are not offering any volunteer income tax assistance programs to get help. But again, if it becomes available, remember tax filing season has been extended until July. Maybe by then it will be a little bit more calm. The quarantine will be lifted, or it's not as severe with COVID-19. You can always look for VITA volunteers to help you file for your taxes. The fourth option is really looking for a private tax accountant. And I recommend this only for students that have very complicated tax cases, right? Maybe you made money from stocks that you invested here in the United States, or from mutual funds that you invested in the United States, and then you also made some income as a student worker, and maybe you also were getting income from curricular practical training or OPT. So various forms of income. That's a very good example why it can be a little bit complicated. So I recommend this only if you want someone that is more of a trained professional to help you file your taxes and you're willing to pay a little bit more money. Sometimes it depends on the tax accountants. It can cost a lot more than Sprint Tax or just a tax preparation company. So be ready for it. And this may be good if you have again dependents too. It could, if you're not sure how to file certain taxes and you really want to talk to person and you have a lot, have dependents that could affect your tax situation, maybe that's something that you might want to consider someone that you might want to consider talking to, like a private tax accountant. We're getting close. This is almost the end of our presentation. It's a very short presentation, as you can see, but these are some resources that you may find helpful when you're getting ready to file for taxes, right? The IRS tax information for students has a section for foreign international students that explains a little bit more information. There's also the California Franchise Tax Board where you can, and also the IRS website, you can go ahead, go into the website and download the forms that you really need in order to file for your taxes. Get yourself familiar with it. Don't be afraid of them. They're fairly easy to read through. The other resource that I recommend is Sprint Tax. There's another company too called Glacier Tax Preparation. I don't recommend them as much as Sprint Tax because Glacier only does the federal one. It doesn't do both of them like Sprint Tax does. So it kind of is tricky, right? You go into it and you pay into it and, oh, I forgot to file for the next one. But if you want the link, I can provide you the link for the Glacier Tax Prep. It might be a little bit cheaper than Sprint Tax. And the other last resource that I have, and he's actually a very resourceful public accountant. He's a certified public accountant here in Los Angeles. He's over, I think is in Westwood, Gary Engler. He works primarily with a lot of international students, with a lot of non-resident tax issues. So if you have very specific questions or very complicated cases, Gary, and you want to hire a private tax accountant, you could contact Gary, and his website is listed here right underneath here. Later on, if you're interested, we can also share, if you register for this webinar, we can send you an email with the PowerPoint so that you can have those links with you and you can share with your friends too. And again, we are going to post this. It's going to be available on YouTube at a later time, so you can go back and view this presentation at a later time. Now, this actually concludes the presentation. One of the things that I will do is, before I let you guys open it up for questions, I want to show you our Pasadena.edu international website. The Pasadena.edu international website is the International Student Center website. And this is kind of, and I like to share this with students because there's a lot of information in here that you will find helpful. We're still open for business. Sandra and I are still here. Sandra has been fantastic because she's been answering all the emails that you guys send to her through the general ISO email address. And also she's been calling students. So she's really an important part of our team. Rosa Villegas is also our advisor. She's not here in this webinar today, but she's been helping our students with OPT filing. And if you have questions about filing taxes, you can also, kind of general questions, not specific ones, for resources, she can also provide some information. But one of the important things is, if you're interested in speaking to one of us, you can always schedule an appointment by emailing us. You can also talk to an academic counselor by visiting this link. You can book yourself an appointment with an academic counselor if you have questions about classes or academics. And also, one of the things that we try very hard is to provide as much information to our students so that you can always read through it, you can always refer to it. So under students, current students, you will get more information in there in the next couple of weeks as we update our website. But the other important thing is our events page. If you haven't been to our events page, this is a good opportunity to see what we have planned. I know it's a little bit hard during these times. You know, students are not, we're not able to meet with students personally or have events for our students, but we do have online events. So we want to stay connected with you. We want to touch base with you. We want to hear how you're feeling. So join us in any way you can, even if it's for a tax workshop, which is not as exciting as a game break. But I want you guys to take the time to join us if you have an opportunity. And finally, let me go back to the PowerPoint presentation. This is our contact information. If you didn't know, we are on email, we are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, we are on YouTube. So if you need to find us, we are online. And again, you know how to contact us. You know how to find me or Sandra or Rosa or Michael, our professional expert graduate assistant. So yeah, so we're here to help you. Now, with that being said, I think I'm going to open it up for questions. I'll ask Sandra to help me feed some of the questions so that I can help students out. Did we have any questions, Sandra?
So we have 3 questions so far, but one is, what happens if I only filed the IRS taxes last year for 2018 period and not the California taxes?
Well, I mean, that's a very good question. If you forgot to file for your California taxes, you could always retroactively file if you missed one of them. You know, I am not a professional tax accountant, so I can't tell you what IRS or the California Franchise Tax Board will do if they find out you didn't file. Most likely, if you didn't make a lot of money, you may qualify for a refund. If you actually did owe taxes, then you probably may have to pay a little bit of interest for it. The recommendation is always for international students, if you made any money, even if you didn't, still file for it. And again, you can retroactively file for something that you maybe forgot to file in the previous year. You just have to pay a little bit of a penalty. But it's going to help in the future. Part of it is I always worry what your plans are going to be in the future, right? If you're going to stay here for OPT, if you're going to eventually switch from a non-immigrant F1 visa into a resident visa, those things have consequences. So I'd rather be on the safe side rather than on the more easy side. So I would still recommend that you try and file for taxes from before if you missed it.
There's another question. How do we report taxes for the interest earned from a savings account?
Ooh, usually on a savings account, and again, I'm not a tax expert, but usually if you earned a certain amount that it's a high enough amount, you will receive a form from your bank. I forgot what that specific form is, but there's 4 numbers to it, and it ends with INT or DIV, which is dividend or interest. So if you made enough money, and it's usually like a lot of, I don't know what the threshold is, but it's an amount of money that you earn from your interest and dividend. If it's a very, very small amount, you probably won't receive that form. But if it's a large amount, you will. If you do receive that form, then you will have to report that interest or that dividend.
Okay, and another question that we have is, in which case should I, as an F1 visa holder, get a tax return from the government?
Can you repeat that question?
So are there any cases where an F1 visa holder should get a tax return instead of owing money?
Oh, to get money back. It is possible, actually, in cases where at the very beginning, let's say for students that are working at PCC, it is very likely that when you started your paperwork with HR, they ask you for a form that asks you how many allowances you want to take. Allowances is really based on your individual, your personal situation. So if you're single, you don't have any children, you take this amount of allowances. If you're married with children, this amount of allowances. So it kind of tells the US government to withhold taxes based on your situation. So if for whatever reason you withheld more taxes, it is possible that you may be owed a refund. And when you file for taxes, it will show if you're using any software like Sprint Tax, or even when you're working with CPAs or with public accountants, or even with with the tax preparation companies, they would say if you owe or you are given a refund. And typically a refund doesn't mean that the US government owes you money. It's just that you overpaid your taxes. And the US government basically has been keeping your money and they're just giving it back to you. It's really your money if you think about it that way. So in many ways, you kind of have to look at what your allowances are. It's called a W-4 form. And you can always update your W form. And usually when you go to the IRS website, you can search for W-4, and it does explain to you what are those, what the allowances are. And I can actually, let me stop sharing here and I can show you where to find that form. Let me search for it. So when you go to the irs.gov website, and I'll share the screen with you. You can search for, I believe it's the W-4 form, and it will explain to you what that form is, right? It's the employees withholding certificate. It was basically how many allowances you would hold. And it does explain to you, there's a formula that you can use, the forms and instructions. It actually explains to you based on what your situation is. You're single, you're married, you have children. If you're married, are you filing together or are you filing separately? So all those things will help determine what your allowance is. The idea is that you get as close to, with, I guess, not withholding as much or owing as many taxes as possible. So you kind of have to find that balance right there. And you can always update your W-4 form. You just basically, you can do it annually depending on your situation, and you can file it with, I believe it's Human Resources at PCC. For example, if I'm expecting a child, my W-4 form will be different because I will be adding an additional person in my family. So you kind of have to find that good balance right there. I hope that explained all the questions. I wonder, does anyone else have any questions about filing taxes for F1 international students, or just about taxes in general?
I think that's the last question that I received, unless anyone has any more questions.
Perfect. Okay. If there are no more questions, I think I'm going to end this webinar. I thank you again for your time. And thank you again, Sandra, for helping us moderate and making sure everything is running smoothly. We'll be posting this online on our YouTube page. We're still working to see how we can include that on our main page. So pretty soon you'll be able to view the videos on our main page or find the links to our main page. But one of the things that I do encourage you, and we don't have that many viewers here today, is if you have any ideas or workshops that you want us to present on, please let us know. This tax workshop was a suggestion from some of our students who were working on campus and didn't know that they need to file taxes. So if you tell us what you need, that will help us in creating workshops. We always think that you need this, but sometimes it's not really that relevant. So please send us an email, let us know. You have our contact information. I know Carlos has contact information for Rosa and for me too. So if you need to find us, please let us know. And for our students, please let us know. With that being said, thank you so much. Please stay safe, please stay healthy. International Student Center team is here for you. So if you need anything, don't hesitate to contact us. And again, thank you for your time and spending this afternoon with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.